Houston, we have a problem.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Silent breed is people!
Yo, Adrian! I did it!
Let's put a smile on that face.
I gotta warn you, Clark. They don't play the same games here as they do at them regular casinos.
Royale too.
Welcome back to Casino Royale with Cheese. This is the show where we talk about movies that were number one at the box office exactly 20 years ago. This is episode 12. My name is Shane. With me today, I have the man who actually tends to go for Meg Ryan's Chad Kroeger hair. This is Mike.
What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I was wondering how it's going to fit
this morning.
in. Oh yeah, it did snow. A little dusting.
Yeah.
It's cold outside. I don't feel like April. I'll tell you that. I was wondering how I was going to fit in that little like allusion to Chad Kroeger and Meg Ryan having similar hair. So I guess that works.
So yeah, just poke fun at me for no
Yeah,
apparent reason.
exactly.
Yeah, sure. Works out.
I'm glad you like that. That's good. No, like I said in the intro, this is a show where we talk about movies that came out exactly 20 years ago. Not necessarily came out, but were number one at the box office. So this week, needless to say, we are discussing the movie that was number one, April 10th of 1998, that weekend. What movie is that, Mike?
City of Angels.
Yeah, City of Angels. Man, I've got a lot to say about this thing, but we'll get to that all in due time, I suppose. First off, let me, so for anybody that hasn't seen it, this movie is actually a remake of, I guess it's a German film called Wings of Desire. I've never seen it. I heard it's far better than this, but,
I thought maybe it was a book or something.
I don't think so. It might have been a book, but I know it was a German film.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, everything's, I guess, a book, potentially, you know? So, this thing stars, check this out, Academy Award winner Nicolas Cage. He plays the role of Seth. We've got Meg Ryan playing Dr. Maggie Rice, Andre Braugher playing Cassiel, and Dennis Franz of NYPD Blue fame playing Nathaniel Messenger. So,
again, on paper,
it looks fine, especially in the 90s.
yeah, it looks good to go.
Right.
Yeah,
I actually
Nicolas Cage just came off of Face Off. Meg Ryan's super huge.
Yeah, has been ever since like When Harry Met Sally.
Right.
Nicolas Cage had a string. He did like Con Air, Face Off. He did what was it? He did a bunch of those movies that were really big. Before that, it was The Rock. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, you know. Andre Braugher, he's not as well known, but I actually remember seeing him in Frequency, him and Jim Caviezel, and what's his name, Dennis Quaid. That was a good movie. So, you know, it was directed by Brad Silberling. Are you familiar with his work at all, Mike?
Nope.
Well, Brad Silberling, so he's done a bunch of different stuff round and about. He, before this, did the movie Casper. So
I own that film.
Yeah, I actually like Casper. Completely different than this thing, but, you know, I guess it has to do with the afterlife, but that's about it, you know.
My wife was totally in love with the little boy in that movie when I guess she was a little girl.
The one that actually was like whenever Casper came alive or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
I was surprised it wasn't Macaulay Culkin, because he was in everything back then, but...
That's true.
He directed the Jim Carrey vehicle, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Before
That's
that
a
became
pretty
a
decent
Netflix
flick.
show. Yeah, I like it. Me and the wife, we haven't watched season 2, but we watched, I think, a vast majority of season 1 of the show anyway, and I really enjoyed that too. But the movie was good.
Yep.
He did Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell, which I thought was a big whopping piece of crap. So.
Yep, I would
Yeah.
agree.
But no, he actually did. So my first real exposure to him, I guess there was an incident whenever he was younger, and he had been like engaged to this woman or whatever, and she wound up passing away. And so he actually went on later on to make a movie about it called Moonlight Mile with Jake Gyllenhaal and Dustin Hoffman, and I think Susan Sarandon was in it too. And this was like early 2000s that he came out with that. And I was like, okay, well, he's kind of restricted to what he can do because this City of Angels is a remake. But, you know, if we get this guy that obviously has a little bit of directing chops, kind of like a personal story, this thing could be really good. And I watched that Moonlight Mile, and it freaking sucked too, man. Back in the day. But
I was not impressed.
no. With this?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I got a lot to say because, needless to say, like I said last week, I'm not a big Nicolas Cage fan at all.
I am though, so that's like where I'm torn because I am a Nick Cage fan, man. Like all those movies that were hits, like I was a huge fan of all of them. I really did like them a lot.
Yeah.
But this movie,
I like Con Air. I like The Rock. Face Off never really did it for me.
I love that movie.
Oh, man.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Gone in 60 Seconds was pretty cool. I like that one after rewatching it a few times.
I was on board until like National Treasure 2 or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where he lost me.
Well, so I kind of have a different take when it comes to Nicolas Cage. Because
Leaving Las Vegas.
Leaving Las Vegas. Is that the one that he won the Oscar for?
Maybe he like is trying to drink himself to death.
It could be.
And
I know
he has
that
Elizabeth
Shue.
Shue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
She's a
Marty's
prostitute
girlfriend and
that-
Adventures in Babysitting and all that crap. Yeah.
Yeah. She like is the prostitute that is like trying to help him.
I see.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, I've heard it was. And I like some of his more obscure stuff. Like back in the day he was in like Peggy Sue Got Married, and I really enjoyed that movie. Raising Arizona I thought was great.
Yeah, those are both good.
He's since then done some he's done some different stuff like Matchstick Men with Sam Rockwell. I love that movie, dude. I thought he was great in it too.
I liked that one. I did.
Yeah, he was in the movie Adaptation, where he plays scriptwriter Charlie Kaufman, which is a really strange movie, but he does a good job in it. He plays him and his twin brother, who actually doesn't exist in real life, and it was a great role, you know. But he's completely.
I don't
slid
know if
off
I've
now.
seen that.
Yeah, it's good. The whole idea of it is that I guess Charlie Kaufman has been given the task of adapting this book, The Orchid Thief, into a movie. Except there's no story about it. It's just this woman, and she has these predilections for like this ghost orchid or whatever, and it's all about this dude Charlie Kaufman that's having like this really difficult time like adapting that into a movie, and it's really good stuff. I like it a lot. Yeah, so I kind of like more of his obscure stuff. I wasn't real big on his some of his action-y type of stuff, I guess, you know.
You didn't like Ghost Rider?
No. I know I saw Ghost Rider. I didn't care for it, but I heard that the second one was even worse than the first one.
It was terrible.
Yeah. All I needed to hear was that it was written by the dudes that did Crank High Voltage, and I was like, all right, I'm out. But what was it here? I guess, I don't know if you probably heard of this, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of how close we became in the 90s to having a Superman movie directed by Tim Burton and starring Nicolas Cage as Superman.
I'm aware.
Yeah. How big a
They even
disaster would that be?
You can even see the like mock-up
Promotional
they did.
photos. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, they
With
did that
him in-
documentary, The Death of Superman Lives or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad that didn't happen. I guess originally they had looked at Johnny Depp being considered for the male lead in this movie. And I'm kind of like, I don't care. Whatever. But yeah, so that's my take, I guess, on an overview, if you will, of City of Angels. Do you want to go ahead and try to guess the numbers on this thing, Mike?
I'm gonna guess it was number 1 for 2 weeks.
Okay, that's a very astute guess. Actually, that's you are correct. It was 2 weeks. It was it was on a budget of $66 million, which I don't know where the money went, but whatever.
So they had to buy a lot of trench coats.
Yeah, there was a shortage, especially in some of those library scenes. There were probably a good 20 or 30 trench coats.
Oh, the beach scene, there's at least 200 trench coats out there. Come on.
You're right. What do you think the overall box office take on this thing was for the U.S.?
For 2 weeks at number 1, I'm going to say they made $73 million.
Oh my gosh. Dude, you're close. It was $78,685,000.
I'm getting there.
You're getting
better
it.
At this.
Yeah, you are. You're getting real good at it.
The 2 weeks at number 1 was easy for me because number 1, I knew it was a number 1 movie because we're talking about it.
Right.
Number 2, I figured that the star power of Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage alone would carry it to a second week.
Right.
Plus, so I didn't think. I thought after 2 weeks though, the word would get out and pretty much viewership would go down from there.
It would drop off, yeah. I mean, you also had to think too, because there's all that promotional tie-in crap with this too, like the Sarah McLachlan stuff and the Goo Goo Dolls stuff, and so...
Oh, those were bigger hits than the movie by far.
I agree, but they did tie into it though, and I'm sure that they kind of like fed off of each other as far as the popularity goes, so...
Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I do, unfortunately. Why don't you tell me about your first time first?
So, predictably enough, the first time I saw City of Angels was in the movie theater. Mm-hmm. Can you guess why I was at the movie theater watching City of Angels, Shane?
I'm guessing it was a chick.
It was a chick.
Shot in the dark, yeah.
I was trying to get mine, so she wants to see City of Angels. We're going to see City of Angels. Probably listen to the Goo Goo Dolls on the way there.
Oh, lordy.
The things I would do when I was 19 to get laid.
I'll tell you what, I actually had a chance to go see the Goo Goo Dolls in high school, and that kind of fell through. And I was disappointed because I do like them, but, I interrupted your story. Please proceed.
There's not a whole lot to the story.
Oh, well, there you go.
I was definitely more into the girl I was in attendance with than the movie.
Right. My take on it was different, once again. So I was still living in the suburb of Kansas City at the time, and so all of my family lives where I currently reside now, and we had gone down to visit my uncle that lives here in town, and so anyway, we wound up going to this place to get tacos or something like that, and they were playing either the Arms of the Angel, the Sarah McLachlan thing, or the Goo Goo Dolls. I don't remember which one, but it was playing over the intercom, the loudspeaker, whatever. And so anyway, he's like, oh, that was
at a taco restaurant?
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't Arms of an Angel.
Yeah, you would hope so. I don't know, man. But yeah, so anyway, he was like, oh, this is on that City of Angels. It's a good movie. Well, flashback real quick, because before, probably within the last 2 or 3 months, he had watched the movie The Sixth Sense, because this was, I'm pretty sure, in like 1999. And so he had watched The Sixth Sense, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, And he had recommended to me, he's like, dude, you got to check it out. It's a good movie, And so I watched it and was just blown away by it at the time.
Well, Sixth Sense was a phenomenal flick.
Yeah, especially when it came out,
Yeah.
And so anyway, my uncle, thinking back on that, I was like, well, if he liked, City of Angels, then I should at least give it a shot, And so I watched this thing, and I was like, what the hell's the matter with this dude? But yeah, I mean, my uncle, he's one of those dudes that, like, back in the 80s, he'd always ride around on his motorcycle with his shirt off, and all this. And my dad actually talks about how at one point he had gotten in a collision and skidded on his bare back like 100 feet, He just hopped up on his motorcycle and took off again. And I was like, this is a big strapping dude. and he's going crazy over City of Angels. Come on, But yeah, so that was my take on it, man. I wasn't impressed then, and I didn't fare much better now. So
well, let's get into the Shitty of Angels.
Yeah, we should do that.
My mistake. I said shitty. I think it was a fraudulent slip.
A little Freudian slip, you mean?
Oh, that's what I meant. I said fraudulent.
Fraudulent slip. I actually have written down on my paper here, Shitty of Angels.
Let's get her started.
Yeah. The movie opens up. We've got a mom, and she's basically talking about, she's thinking internally, and she's saying how she doesn't pray very often, and you get the impression that her daughter is sick. And she's like running around their daughter's bedroom, trying to find blankets and whatever for her. And she goes to take her temperature, and it's 105. And so anyway, she runs her in a really cold bath, and then you see where the daughter, like sitting in this armchair next to the daughter's bed, there's this dude in like this black overcoat, trench coat
It's
thing.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there super creepily.
Right. He's the molester of the house, yeah.
By the way, he delivers creepy dude perfectly throughout the entire film.
Absolutely. I don't know if that was what he was supposed to be going for, but that's the way it came off.
He nailed it.
Yeah, he did. I can't imagine that the director was like, just be creepy. It's fine.
Just sit there with like this half smile on your face the whole movie.
That's what he does in every movie, dude.
It was really bad though.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, this time it was there was like he only had one emotion.
Right. He really did. And he doesn't even have that much dialogue really either. But it's really weird. Let me ask you, Mike, what is your take on, because he was like a thing, like a sex symbol back in like the 90s. I never understood that. I always thought he was like the male version of like a Sarah Jessica Parker,
He was like the Jeff Goldblum to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jeff Goldblum, like they try to push him as a sex symbol for a long time too.
I don't know why. I like Jeff Goldblum. I don't think he's that sexy, but I'm just going out there on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just aren't my type.
I guess. Maybe.
I'm more of a Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise kind of guy.
That's what I'm saying. If I had to go for a dude, give me like a Chris Hemsworth or...
Oh, yeah. Give me some Thor.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not too bad. I'd go... I mean, if, I was into that, and bring it on, Mm-hmm. Anyway, so she throws her in this really cold bath, and like you see where Nicolas Cage like reaches out to touch her hand, and the mom like scoops her up right there and throws her in a bath. Apparently mom can't see her or see him. Next thing we know, daughter's at the hospital. They're wheeling her on this gurney.
We don't know that yet though.
The what?
That the mom can't see him.
Well, she's ignoring him. But,
right. She's concerned with the daughter, and he's just some dude sitting in a corner. We don't know what the relationship is.
That is
we cut
true.
to the hospital. He's walking next to the girl on the gurney too.
Right. And nobody, once again, is acknowledging him being there at all. Yeah. And so, anyway, they go, and I guess they're going to try to get this girl's, like, vitals down, try to figure out what's the matter with her, but she dies too quickly for them to be able to do anything to save her. And so anyway, the next thing you know, you look over and she's like standing across the room next to a creepy Nicolas Cage, and he takes her to heaven, I suppose.
That's when you find out he's some type of thing that takes you back and forth.
Supernatural being of some type, yeah. And he's actually talking to her. Go ahead.
Nicole noticed, he asked the little girl, like, what was your favorite about living?
Right.
And she says pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
My wife wanted to know, why is the little girl that has 105 fever wearing like thick, fuzzy footed pajamas?
That's a valid point, man. We had an issue where our daughter, this was probably a good, I don't know, right after maybe Halloween-ish, or maybe right around that same time, within a month thereof. But she was wearing these big old jack-o'-lantern footed pajamas. And she's running this fever like 102, 103, and so we take her to the ER. And anyway, the doctor's like, well, why is she wearing this if she's so hot, But I mean, you're right. That stuff locks in the heat, man.
So you did it too?
Do what?
You were a retard and had your daughter was in a fever.
Yeah. We didn't even
wearing
think
thick
about
old
it.
jammies.
Yeah. So I guess it's
God.
not that far-fetched. But when she got to the hospital, you'd think the first thing to do is strip all that crap off of her, But, anyway.
Let's get back to the movie.
I do like
we cut
where
to
he asked her,
Nicolas Cage and... Oh, God. Go ahead.
real quick, he asked her, he said, what was your favorite thing about, or what did you like best? And she says pajamas. What kid's going to say that, dude? If you have...
I don't know. I just said that, though. I just told that line.
Well, I know you did, but I was just wondering, I don't think that a kid realistically is going to say that pajamas were their favorite thing about being alive.
For that little girl, it was, dude. Who am I to question the
guess.
toddler?
I mean, in a world where there's cartoons and ice cream and amusement parks and stuff like that, pajamas? Really? Whatever. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
So we cut to the next scene. Nicolas Cage is sitting on top of a sign with another dude.
Yeah. This dude's name is Cassiel. And I noticed that there was a really bad green screen. You could tell that was just done in a studio somewhere. But
you don't think they were sitting on a sign above the interstate?
I mean, you could make the effect look a little bit better than that, but no, obviously they were not.
Oh, damn. They talk about how they wish they could feel touch. Or Nicolas Cage's character, Seth, he says, I wish I could feel touch.
Yeah. And you get the impression that, they lay it out pretty strongly throughout the movie, but these angels, they can't taste, they can't smell, really. I don't even think they could see in color. I think it was all black and white. And but yeah, they're just talking about what it would like to be human and stuff like that. And
then they go about to show us that there's these people in trench coats all over at Los Angeles, and they can hear people's thoughts.
Right.
And we find out that the guys in trench coats are all angels; they're not humans.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, they're scattered all throughout the city, like you said, and they all congregate on the beach whenever there's a sunrise or a sunset. Because apparently you can hear music if you're an angel whenever the sun rises. Do what now?
That's what they said.
Yeah. And so anyway, we are introduced to Dr. Maggie Rice. And she's riding her bike to the hospital where she works. She's some sort of doctor.
It's Meg Ryan.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny.
Dude, I was in love with Meg Ryan.
Yeah, me and you both. Although I will say I liked her,
that woman.
I liked her more so in Top Gun than I liked her here. But
I liked all of her stuff. I don't know what happened to her.
And she got a lot of work done on her face. It's messed up looking.
Well, I haven't seen her in a long time. So.
Ooh, it's rough looking. Anyway,
she's a doctor who listens to Hendrix.
Right, she's getting ready for surgery. She's riding her bike to school or to work and all that. And so she's gonna cut this dude open, do some kind of heart surgery, and then you see nobody knows that he's there, but Seth, the Nicolas Cage angel, shows up and basically is there to take this dude she's operating on to the afterlife, And so eventually the patient, he flatlines on the table.
We don't have to go into detail for detail on this movie, man.
No, it's
Meg
short.
Ryan's a doctor. She listens to Hendrix. Her patient dies.
Mm-hmm.
She has to tell the family. They're sad.
And she takes it really hard too. She starts crying. Seth is trying to console her and touch her and stuff like that because she's in the stairway all by herself, but she can't see him or feel him touching her.
Right in front of her face, 1 inch from her nose. So creepy.
Yeah.
This angel is stalking this woman.
Right. It's nobody can. Oh, he's talking to Cassiel, the other angel that he was talking to before, and Cassiel says nobody can see you unless you want them to. And so anyway, then we go through this whole montage of him stalking her throughout this hospital, just standing there and watching her constantly, It's around this time. Is this where we find out that she's got this boyfriend that is also a doctor there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets pulled off of surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we meet
Jordan Ferris.
What's his name? Yeah, Jordan. We meet Jordan, and
Yeah.
Jordan seems like a pretty legit dude, man.
He kind of got
Seems
dealt
like a nice
dirty, I
enough
think, in
guy.
this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how the fuck is he supposed to compete with an angel?
That looks like Nicolas Cage, apparently. So, anyway, the angels, they say that, I guess they all live in the library, it looks like to me. And they just kind of like listen to like people's thoughts and stuff like that while they're reading books or looking on the internet or whatever.
It's weird.
And yeah, and so I guess we get to the scene where Meg Ryan's like chilling. She goes up to the babies. What do they call that?
Nursery?
Yeah, I get. There's the whatever wing it is, but
Pediatric wing?
Pediatric, yeah. And so anyway, there's this whole stupid subplot about this baby that I guess isn't sleeping.
He's a dumpster baby.
Right, yeah. And
There was one funny spot in this movie, and it was right here. It was from there's a OBGYN pediatric doctor in there, and she's friends with Maggie. And she comes in, and Maggie says, I should have did pediatrics. And she goes, no, the only guys you meet are dads and gynos. And you never
Right.
want to date a guy who knows more about your vagina than you do.
yeah.
That's funny.
There was another scene that actually made me laugh, and I don't know if I wrote it down or not. But I mean, a lot of it made me laugh, but unintentionally.
Yeah, Nicole thought I was loving it, and I was like laughing at the ridiculousness of it.
Was she really like digging this when y'all were watching it?
No, she likes the movie, but she understands how absurd it is.
Yeah, it's not very good. Anyway, so what is it here? Oh, she talks to this friend that she has who serves no purpose in the movie, really. About how she feels like she doesn't have control over anything. Nobody dies on her table and all this other crap. I don't think that that's a very good mindset to have if you're a doctor. I'm just going to float that out there. Because it's going to happen.
Basically giving up.
Right. So anyway, later on, she finally sees Seth at the hospital. He's apparently revealed himself to her. And so then we before had met Nathan Messenger, and he's Dennis Franz. He's the guy whose surgery got pushed, that she was supposed to cut into him or whatever. And so I guess they're going to do it on Monday. And the doctor isn't looking optimistic because this guy basically is like a glutton and he overindulges everything.
He was eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
In the hospital bed, yeah.
Yeah.
Before his heart surgery. Yeah.
And Maggie basically tells him, like, if you're going to eat like that, we can just cancel the surgery, save your $30,000.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. And, but anyway, his surgery winds up going fine. Just fine. And later on, we cut to this really weird scene where she gets home and she's like thinking about Seth and like touching herself in the bath and all this. It's weird, dude.
Drinking some Rolling Rock.
I noticed that. Big old shout out to Rolling Rock. That's my stuff. But
another creepy scene with her and Seth as when she gets, because he's like watching her in the bathtub.
Right.
And then when she gets out of the bathtub, like he's like touching her shoulders and stuff, but
Yeah.
she can't see him. So this guy that already like introduced himself to her,
Right.
is now just sneaking around like the invisible man in her room.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice the little glance that he shot at her nether regions too? I was like, come on, dude. He did. He snuck a peek. I was like, what the hell?
It's pretty gross scene, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I wrote Doc beats off, so. But yeah, she's feeling pretty frisky up in that bath.
I didn't notice her like masturbating.
Well, she was doing some pretty good old touching there. I'm sure that some fingers got in some different places.
Oh Jesus!
But yeah. So anyway, she finds this book, this Ernest Hemingway book, on her bed.
Yeah, she wakes up the next morning.
Yeah.
It's the
And,
same book we saw some old guy reading in the library earlier in the movie.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't notice. Yeah.
The scene where Nicolas Cage is like sitting there watching this old man read a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that book.
Oh, okay. So he's like getting the Cliff's notes from that dude, and then like gives it to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. So she goes to confront this dude Jordan, that she's been seeing, and she's like, oh, you left this book on the nightstand. He's like, that ain't my book.
She was actually really touched by it. She thought it was really sweet of him to bring the book.
And
so that when she goes and brings him the book back, he's like, I didn't do that. She's like, oh.
Never mind. Yeah. And so anyway, she decides to take it back to the library, and they're like, yeah.
Did you notice he was smoking?
Who was? Oh, yeah,
doctor.
he was smoking while he played basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a good combo.
Probably not. I gotta say, so like this Brad Silberling dude, I'm almost halfway convinced that the whole reason that he made this movie is just because he really likes getting footage of LA. Because he really tries to like showcase off all these different spots in LA, you know? Like he loves this city apparently.
And he's always got like 2 to 3 people in trench coats standing on top of something.
Yeah. That's weird, man. Random signs, whatever, buildings, doesn't matter. Oh, the big Hollywood sign? Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, she goes to the library to take his book back, and she goes to put it back on the shelf, and sure enough, here's Seth again. And
yep.
So they get to talking, and he basically tells her that he is a messenger and that he lives in the library. And she's like, oh, okay, you want to do something? And so they dip out and they go to the market. And
date night at the market.
yeah. And they talk about pears. And she's eating a pear, and he wants her to explain it to him. And
like Ernest Hemingway does.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, because in the book he had talked about like eating oysters or whatever. Drinking the juice out of an oyster. Really don't want to hear Nicolas Cage talk about that, but whatever. And so anyway, they go back to the hospital, and she shows him like this blood sample, and he tries to like sniff her hair. And I was like, well, he knows he can't smell anything, so I don't understand that, but whatever.
He's trying.
I guess, you know.
So she says she wants to see his blood under the microscope, and he says, impossible.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't have blood, so.
And she just brushes it off that he's a pussy.
Right. Yeah, he does a lot of stuff that requires the Meg Ryan character to act like a complete moron in this thing. Because if he'd have said like 1/10 of the shit to me that he says to her, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna stay away from this dude. You know,
this dude's out of his fucking mind.
Right. He goes through and asks to explain crying to him, and like scientifically or whatever, and she offers up a really crappy explanation, and finally she's like, I don't know. And so then she gets this alert that like this dude Nathan Messenger is like choking, and so she like runs over to his room real quick and like pulls this big ass tube, like this mask off of his face, and he's breathing fine. And I was like, why did they even put that on there, you know? If it's like choking.
Yeah, he definitely didn't need the tube.
Yeah. Anyway, we find out at that point that this messenger guy knows about angels. And he's like trying to call out for one of them. Now keep in mind, if you guys haven't seen this movie, we're about 45 minutes into this thing at this point. So, there's not a whole lot going on.
No. That's why we're like really spreading out the details.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, this movie, there's nothing in it.
No, not a whole lot going on for 2 hours.
This is the coolest part, though. Probably Messenger is probably the coolest character in the movie.
Yeah, most definitely. He winds up.
He knows about good.
Well, I was gonna say because they go back to it shows her at her house, and this Jordan dude shows up, and she winds up injuring her finger somehow. I don't remember exactly, and she asks for alcohol, or the guy.
No.
What?
No, she doesn't hurt her finger.
Well, what does she need alcohol for?
There's a tick on the dog.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. And no, it's later on where they're. Yeah.
Jordan's at the house. Mm-hmm. There's a tick on the dog. He removes it, and then he gets to fuck Meg Ryan.
There you go. There's your hero. No, I thought it was weird that a doctor wouldn't have like rubbing alcohol at the house. Whatever.
He said that.
Yeah, exactly. But so then we go back to explaining why this messenger dude knows about angels. Apparently,
there was a Messenger's like clicking through the TV real quick.
Yeah.
And Jerry Springer KKK Moms is on.
I noticed that. I was like, the KKK on Springer. Wow, dude. That's weird, man.
He says out loud, "Do you want to watch anything?" Nah, me either. And he turns it off, and that's when we see that Nicolas Cage or Seth is in the room.
Right. So they go out to this diner, and Messenger orders just like this copious amount of food.
The menu.
Yeah.
The whole menu.
He really does. And then so he tells Seth how he was an angel at one point, and if angels decide that they want to become human, then they can choose to become human and like fall off from like a really high height, I suppose. And so that will turn you into a human, apparently. And then he takes
said that humans are born with free will, and so are we.
There you go. So, yeah. I think that would be a loophole that God overlooked in the whole thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he takes him out to the beach, and he asks if he can hear the sunrise, the singing, and Messenger's like, no, I can't. But he's like, oh, I can feel this, and so he like jumps into the ocean. And so anyway, Nicolas Cage
body
goes,
surfs.
Yeah.
He had open heart surgery 48 hours ago. He's body surfing.
He's getting around good too, man. Like, one thing I noticed is that he shows up at that diner in like the hospital gown. I don't think that they would be hooking this dude up with anything. They'd probably call the hospital.
Yeah, I don't know. He got to eat whatever he wanted.
Yeah, it's weird, man. So yeah, he body surfs. Seth meets Maggie again while she's out like playing fetch with their dog.
At this point in the film, he's linked up with her. This is the third time, right?
Right. Yes.
And all 3 times they were not planned meetings.
No.
At least not for her, they weren't.
Right. Yeah, he's
So
planning.
when is she going to be like, what the fuck is up with this dude?
Right. Just keeps popping
Well, she
up.
doesn't.
No.
She's
she never
so excited
questions it.
every time he shows up.
Mm-hmm.
My theory behind that is he's a fucking angel.
Could
And he's
very
got
well
like
be.
an unfair advantage.
Well, it shows that she's really not listening to anything that he's saying at all either, you know?
And she talks about how beautiful he is.
Right. Which is a weird compliment for a guy.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's got to be I think that's their attempt to show us that like the magnetism of angels is just so intense.
It could be. Could be.
But they do a terrible job of executing it.
Oh, absolutely.
She asks him what he does for a living. What she goes, "Are you homeless?" No.
Married.
Married? No. Are you a drummer? What the fuck?
That was kind of a funny line, yeah.
Then they kiss.
Mm-hmm. She wants to find out more about him, and so he offers nothing. Whenever they do kiss, apparently I guess neither one of them felt like any sort of connection at all. And on his end, it's because obviously he can't feel touch at all. And with her, I guess she just didn't feel anything because he wasn't reciprocating. Whatever.
I thought she did.
Did she? Because she just
Yeah, 'cause
kind of like walks away. But I guess
Well,
it's.
she steps back and asks him, "Did you feel that?"
Oh, okay.
So I think she got like some type of like electric shock.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not like a real electric shock, but you know, like that tingly like
Right.
feeling you get when you're really into somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
I
Little
think
butterflies.
I think
yeah.
I think she felt it like real big time, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel anything. 'Cause he can't feel.
I got you. Yeah, they never really went into what was going on in her head at the moment. All I know is that she like took off, and I was like, well, that was a bust. But maybe it's because she was also like dating this other dude too, and that's why she wanted to get out of there.
Well, after she said, "Did you feel that?" He says he just stands there. He doesn't say anything, so she can tell that he's not in. She feels like he's not into it.
I got you.
And then he says, "I could help you. I could explain and help you understand." And she doesn't want a fucking explanation. She's out of there.
Right.
But
Later
for just a
on-
second, because they meet up at Messenger's welcome home party, like in the next scene.
Nothing. That's the best way to welcome somebody home from open heart surgery is a big party where you serve a bunch of crap, you know.
Yeah, there's this little girl at the party that is like hanging all over,
All up in his
Seth.
shit, yeah.
all in his face and everything, and I can actually sympathize with that. because it seems like every time I go to friend's house, if they have like little girls, they just want to hang out with me the whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
But and then she says, "You're just like Grandpa."
Mm-hmm. And this woman tries to take a photo of him, like a Polaroid, and Seth doesn't show up in the picture. Yeah.
It just glows.
Mm-hmm. And so later on, they cut to, I guess he went home with Maggie, because Maggie was there too.
Yeah.
And she's gonna make something for dinner or whatever, and he goes to like cut some lettuce up, and he winds up like cutting through his thumb,
like completely through his thumb.
It was pretty. I was not expecting that the first time I saw this movie. I was like, oh damn!
What's funny is she thought she saw him cut his hand.
Yeah.
So her next move was just to cut it for real.
Right. Yeah. And she's a doctor, mind you. Do no harm.
Yeah. She just grabbed the knife and just sliced his hand, and he's like, "Why did you do that? Mm-hmm. What's your last name?" Plate.
And she's like, "Seth Plate." That's the part that made me laugh. That's what it was.
So he tells her he's in love with her.
Name. Yeah. And so yeah, he says he's in love. And then Maggie's like, "You need to get the fuck out of my house." And then we get the Arms of an Angel montage. And oh god, this thing, I swear. So this is where we see her, and she's like walking around her apartment. It's all dark and stuff. And he was doing something. I don't remember what. I think he was walking around in the market or some crap. And so anyway, yeah. All of a sudden he like comes up behind her and starts like rubbing her shoulders, and then at one point she says, "I want to see you." I was like, so that's a weird line.
Well, he's not showing himself, he's only touching her. He's invisible.
Okay. Yeah.
and she's like begging for it, and he like just lays in bed with her.
Yeah. And she wanted him to like hold her until she went to sleep. Yeah.
And she's got the best sleep ever.
She
slept
did
all night long.
Right. She is it at that point that she goes to work and gets proposed to? I think it is.
No.
No,
she gets up and sprints straight to the work and runs in and knows exactly why the baby's not sleeping.
That's what it was. Yeah. And I guess what was it that he had something up his nose or some crap? He wasn't sleeping.
I guess his air passages were like narrow or something.
Right.
But what's crazy is like she ran in and the pediatric doctor like literally took like a quick look. It was like, "You're right."
Didn't think to look up his nose, huh?
Yeah. They said they did all the tests in the world on the baby, but they didn't like look at him.
Right. Yeah, we forgot to look. That's weird.
So this is when. So after that, Jordan. That's when Jordan proposes.
Yeah, she's in like the locker room of the hospital, and like the Jordan dude comes in and proposes to her. She doesn't give him an answer, and instead she goes and talks to Nathan, and he tells her that he can become human. And then they could have like a normal relationship or whatever. Doesn't he tell her that he was an angel too?
I don't think so.
No, I'll cry.
I don't think he does.
I got you. Yeah, he basically just says that he can become human if he wanted to. And so anyway, she goes to the library to go find Seth, and she said that she wants to say goodbye to him, that she's gonna marry Jordan, and that she doesn't want him to pop up after they get married. And so I think the only reason that they did that is because she didn't want him to like give up an eternity's worth of lifetime basically just for her, and so she's gonna take that option off the table. And so he decides at that point that he's gonna take the plunge and become human. He's gonna choose and fall. And so he winds up jumping off of this high scaffolding in like this construction area, and then sure enough he wakes up and he's human, and he's like bleeding on his hand and stuff, but he gets to keep his clothes.
Yeah, he's bleeding on his hand and he's got a busted lip.
Yeah, I thought the keeping the clothes thing was weird, but you know, whatever. No, he did bust his lip.
There's a bunch of construction guys. Yeah, there's a bunch of construction guys around, and they're all like, "Hey you, you can't be here." Now, did they just watch him hit the ground? Or did they all come to work and he was already on the ground?
So the only thing that I could think of is he was an angel up until maybe he hit the ground, and so nobody could see him. And then once he hit the ground, he was a human at that point. So they didn't actually see him fall. All they knew is there was some dude just laying there. I'm thinking.
Maybe.
But,
Ron Swanson's in the group.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I love Ron Swanson. I don't even watch Parks and Rec, but I love that dude.
He's a young, thin, no facial hair Ron Swanson.
I'm surprised you recognized him.
They just have one scene where he like kind of cheers a coffee cup. Nicolas Cage asked him like, "Can you see me?" And his line is like, "Yeah, we can see you."
I got you. Yeah, I'm sure he probably sounds the same. That's cool.
Yeah, he did.
I would have picked up on that. So he goes to try to find Maggie. Keep in mind, at this point, there's about 25 minutes left in this movie, and I'm questioning, what is this thing even about, you know? What the fuck, man? He goes to try to find Maggie. He winds up getting, he finds out that he goes to her hospital and asks the lady that's the pediatric doctor or whatever, pediatrician. She says that he went to Lake Tahoe and she's trying to clean up his face, and he knows that Lake Tahoe means that she's gonna marry this Jordan dude, and so he takes off, gets robbed, gets his shoes stolen.
Yeah, he gets jumped for his shoes.
He doesn't have anything else to take. Yeah, he doesn't have a wallet or anything. Yeah. So he winds up getting a ride with this semi driver to Lake Tahoe, and then we get the infamous Goo Goo Dolls thing.
Before it's too late.
Mm-hmm. By the way, so whenever the dude drops him off in Lake Tahoe, I was wondering because he went through. I've been to Lake Tahoe, and I mean, there's all sorts of touristy crap all around there, you know? Like, how's he gonna find... So he finds this phone book, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna look up, because it's her uncle's cabin that she's staying in. And so he grabs his phone book. He doesn't know her uncle's name. Like, he's not an angel anymore, you know?
Well, he knows her name is Rice. Maybe he's going off for Rice.
I guess. It could be. So she shows up at the uncle's cabin. She
looks like dog shit.
Yeah, it's not impressive at all.
He looks like dog shit.
Yeah, he's all beat up, soaking wet, shoeless Joe, you know, the whole thing.
He's literally steaming.
Yeah. When they get there, she says, I couldn't marry Jordan because I don't love him. I love you. And they decide that they're going to get it on. And it's really funny.
They finally do it.
Yeah, at one point he's like kissing her shin, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a panty dropper there. Kissing a chick's shin. They love that, you know?
I like how she asked him, like, how does it feel? He says, it feels warm.
It feels warm.
And achy.
And achy. Well, I don't think you're doing all right then, buddy. But
and then when she, like, inserts him into her, which is what I think she does, she goes, see, we're meant to fit together.
Oh, Lordy. Get me out of here. At least I'm not, like, exasperated at this point like I was last week. Like, there's so much going on in Lost in Space that I was just really getting tired of talking about it, and there's just nothing going on here at all, you know? But,
yeah. Well, she's sitting outside, and he says when he dies, he's going to say this is his favorite.
Yeah. That's it right there.
She says it's going to be a long time from now because we got a lifetime of Mr. and Mrs. Plate ahead of us.
Mr. and Mrs. Plate. That was kind of a funny line, too. I like that whole Seth Plate thing. That was great.
So he's like checking out her perfumes and taking a shower. She's like making breakfast, and she's got to run to the market.
Yeah, she goes to the store. I think it's really funny because whenever he gets out of the shower or whatever, he comes to sit down, and all they have on the table is like these loaves of what looks like some sort of like homemade bread, and like there's just bowls of grapes. I'm like, so are they just gonna eat grapes and bread? That's an awful breakfast, dude. Who wants a grape sandwich? But now she goes to the store. I think that she had a look on her face like she had forgotten something, but do they ever show what she went to go get at the store?
I don't remember seeing what it was.
I mean, probably condoms. But Seth's gonna want to get back out on that wagon. But
up until this point, I forgot how the movie ends.
Oh, really?
It wasn't until she was riding the bicycle back to the cabin that I was like, "Oh shit!"
Forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, she slams into a fucking log truck.
Yeah, the big logging truck. Well, and it's funny because she's like closing her eyes while she's riding her bike, and like her arms are outstretched and everything. It's probably not a good idea while you're on a bike, dude. I'm just saying. But yeah, she basically her face breaks this collision with this logging truck, and so Seth knows that something's up or whatever, and he goes out there to go check, and sure enough, she's like dying. And they have a couple words or whatever, and she says that her favorite thing about life was him, and I guess that's pretty much it. Oh, there's like an angel that's there to come and like get her. He's like, no, look away, don't look at him, and all this other stuff, and then she like dies. So
yeah, it's pretty like quick scene. She doesn't really look like she's dying to me.
I was about to say, she wasn't like cut up or anything, looking like fucked up.
I've crashed into all kinds of shit on my bike, and it hurt, but I recovered.
She had a couple of little spots of dirt on her face, but she wasn't like tore up, like her body was cut in half or anything,
The only thing I can think, and Nicole and I talked about it, if the truck driver put a black like blanket over the top of her,
right?
So maybe he ran over her.
That could be, but I don't know.
Like he passed over her with a rear wheel.
Right. If that's the case, I would say that she actually lived for quite a while after that happened, because her like entire lower half is done. Probably her lungs too at that point, maybe even. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. They don't even really say what her problem was, what she died of, but she winds up biting it. And then we see Seth just kind of like mopes around. He goes to the market and buys like a shitload of pears. And he has this really weird look on his face. Like he's like getting revenge against these pears. He's like twitching his head and stuff. Nicolas Cage is not good at conveying emotion, I don't think, but whatever. And so then he's like sitting by himself in like this living room. Where's he living, by the way? Because he doesn't have any money or identity, really, even,
Like nobody knows who the fuck he is. It's not like he's gonna be able to just inherit like all her shit.
It's not like I can only work at McDonald's. Like, you have nothing. That's it. You don't have ID, no formal education, anything,
See, that thought came into my head when he was at that funeral. He's wearing like this really sharp suit.
Yeah.
He was like, where'd you get that?
Right? I'd probably just stay out at the uncle's house in Tahoe. But that's just me. Anyway, that dude Cassiel from earlier on in the movie comes and asks. He's talking to him. And Nicolas Cage is kind of pissed off. He's like, did you come to pick her up? And he's like, no, it wasn't me, man. And he's talking to him, and he's like, how does it feel to be alive? And he's like, it feels great, And he's like, would you do it again if you knew that she was going to die? And he goes into this whole speech about one breath of her hair, one kiss from her lips. I would trade one of those for an entire eternity without it.
Bullshit.
That's what I'm saying, man. I call BS. That's just it.
Bullshit. I'd be so fucking pissed. And he is too, because he even asked if like God did it on purpose.
Right. Yeah. He asked if like God was punishing him. Yeah.
Fucking dude, I would be so mad.
Right? Especially
like, I just jumped for the woman that like I'm giving up my angelness for this woman.
Right.
I get one night with her, then you fucking take her away.
Right. And especially, I was thinking about this. It's not even that she died, but the fact of she was riding her bike with like her hands outstretched, with her eyes closed, not even looking where she was going. I would be pissed off at her. Like, that was a stupid thing to do. And I just traded all that for that.
Where was the angel? You know how like they showed it throughout the movies, there's all these angels like helping people out?
Right.
Like, where was the angel? Was like, hey, open your eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Truck right there.
None of them. I guess they're all just chilling in L.A. in the library or whatever.
Yeah, they're all in L.A.
Bunch
Fuckers.
of bullshit. So then he goes to the beach, and there's all these angels.
Body surfs.
Yeah. He all the angels are like chilling at sunrise, and he goes out into the ocean and body surfs. And believe it or not, folks, that's the movie. That is it.
And look, we didn't like cut a bunch of shit out. We didn't skip over a bunch of details. We told you the entirety of the film.
No, that's in fact that entire subplot with the baby and all that. We included that entire story, but it factors nothing into the overall plot. So, I think that whoever wrote this thing and made it 2 hours long for the no story that it has should be ashamed of themselves. But
It's a lot of shots of LA, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And they show us a lot of times that there's angels standing around.
right.
They look like extras from The Matrix, but they're around.
You're right.
They live in a library. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the library thing was just because they liked hearing what other people were thinking. But yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. People think everywhere. I don't know.
To me, it seemed like a bunch of just like peeping Toms.
Yeah, I really got that impression, especially whenever Meg Ryan was like doing stuff around the hospital, and Nicolas Cage is just like watching her she'll get on the elevator, he's watching her climb on, she'll come back out on the next floor or whatever, and he's standing right there watching. I was like, get away from her, dude. Personal space, homie.
So what'd you think about the movie there, Shane?
Well, I think that Wayne Campbell from Wayne's World summed it up best when he said this.
It certainly does suck.
No, that movie's
It
freaking
sucks.
terrible. And it
It
hasn't
really
gotten better.
sucks, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, so whenever I first saw it, I was probably 15. And so in my mind, I'm sitting back watching this going, this isn't really catered for a 15-year-old. This isn't the demographic they were going for. So I'm going to try to look at it from the right mindset and maybe try to get more out of it. No, it still sucks.
It's funny, I had a similar thing.
Yeah.
So I'm 19, I'm at the movie theater with some chick, and I just wrote it off as, it's a chick flick.
Right.
I don't like chick flicks, so, it's a chick flick.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm a lot older and I've watched a lot more movies, I've watched some chick flicks that are pretty legit movies, and this is a piece of shit.
It is. Well, and I was about to say, because there's a couple chick flicks that I really don't mind, and one of them I think kind of gets written off as a sci-fi movie. But to me, one of my favorites is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And it's, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, and the whole idea of the movie is that basically they're trying to erase each other from their memories because they broke up and like things went bad in their relationship or whatever. And while they're erasing their memories of the other person, they're basically having to relive all these memories, and like the more that they delete from his memory of Kate Winslet, the more he like remembers why he like fell in love with her in the first place. And I was like, that's a great story right there, dude. It's brilliant,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good film.
Hell yeah. This one, on the other hand, no. I don't think that him and Meg Ryan had any chemistry together. There's no story. Like, they only meet, 3 or 4 times. And then they decide that they are in love and they want to do the thing after they've, had like maybe 6 or 7 conversations, That's stupid. Get out of here.
Again, I think she's so deeply in love because he's an angel.
Very well could be. But in that case,
But
you're kind
they
of
don't
thinking,
show
like,
you
is he
that.
taking advantage of her then?
he definitely is.
Yeah.
He's taking advantage of the whole situation, dude. He's stalking the shit out of her.
Right.
He
He can read her mind.
He only lets her see him when he wants to let her see him. Like, he has total control of the situation. He manipulates the whole thing.
Absolutely. But yeah.
She told his ass that she was going to go marry that doctor and to leave her life. So he decided to become a human and go to Tahoe.
And then stalk the shit out of her some more, yeah. Only this time he had to do it on foot, I wanted it almost that scene to be with the semi truck driver, like something out of like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where the guy's wanting a blowjob or something from him. But no, they didn't go down that road.
I mean, we're led to believe that he makes his sacrifice because he's in love with Meg Ryan. He even says the words, "I'm in love with you." Well, here's the catch: you can't feel shit.
Right. Exactly.
We've already established that in the movie. You can't feel shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also have a gripe against this as well, and this is something that I felt like ever since I first watched this movie. I feel as though it sets up an unrealistic expectation of men. If they're like watching this and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so romantic, look at what he's done for her. No, what you're doing basically, because you hear women talk about like, oh well, I don't like this about this guy, but I'll get with him and then I can change him. And that's basically what this movie is about on a supernatural level, you know, is like, oh, he'll change for me. You know. So I don't know. It's not good. It's crap. Yeah. This thing's a real clunker.
We're at an hour runtime.
Yeah, and we're already out of shit to say. Yeah.
We've already talked about a 2-hour long movie and given our opinions about it, some back history.
That's it, man.
I don't know what else to say.
It shows there ain't nothing else to it. Any final thoughts on this thing, Mike? You good?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said what I need to say about it.
Yeah.
I'm curious what we're watching next week.
Well, so here's the little history lesson on that. So, if you guys that are listening right now will think back, Mike actually chose to watch Jurassic Park, and then we did the Forrest Gump thing, which was kind of something that we all kind of decided upon. And so I clarified with Mike that this week would be my pick. And so I was doing some rigorous research on movies that were number one at the box office, and I think I picked a good one for us, Mike.
What is it?
We're going to watch From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I was surprised that one was number one at the box office. But, yeah.
I'm excited.
We brought up Tarantino a few times on this thing, and this isn't like, you know, one of the Tarantino movies that I think of when I think of him.
Oh,
but it is a damn good movie, though. So
I am excited. 2 weeks of shit movies. Now I get to watch a good one.
Oh, I gotta say, 1998. You guys really need to step up your game, dude. Because I'm not impressed at all at this. Like, come on, 20 years ago. What the hell? But yeah. So that's what we got to look forward to next week. Something decent for a change. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say, Mike. I feel like we're leaving something out, but I think we've talked about it all.
We've covered it, bro.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry y'all got shortchanged this week. Next week, I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss, so that'll work. But anyway, make sure that you join us next time for that. We'll see you then.
Bye.
I'll be back.